Hello and a very warm welcome to Lancaster, the Fraser House Digital and Innovation Hub, and to the Array Festival. My name is Michael Gibson, and today with my expert panel we're going to talk about how to build an incredible SaaS business. As someone who's just launched his first SaaS business, I'm absolutely delighted to be with an expert panel who can teach me more. We're also greatly grateful to our headline sponsors, ICS Accounting and Lancaster City Council, for their support, which is usually appreciated. Quick introduction to our panel. We're joined by three people from Lancaster companies who run SaaS platforms. From the end there, it's Phil Greenwood, co-founder and chief technical officer at Relative Insight, Chris Martin, chief marketing officer at FlexMR, and Hannah Churchman, managing director at Access Planet. So to get started, firstly, we have to say this. Massive congratulations on your recent promotion to managing director at Access Planet. How does it feel?
Thank you. It feels great. It's exciting, and I'm looking forward to what we can do in the future of Access Planet.
Brilliant. Can you tell me a bit more about Access Planet? Can you tell me about the story, what market you operate in, and how you grow the business?
Yeah, so I can take you all the way back 20 years ago, before I was involved with the company. So we provide training management software, which allows training companies to run all of their core operations on one platform. So that's everything from sales and marketing through to the course management, the resource management, surveys, reporting, kind of everything in one platform. So 20 years ago we started as a training company, a training business, and there was nothing really in the market that we needed that could do what we wanted. So our technical director came in, built the platform, and that's how Access Planet became Access Planet.
And where are you now in terms of the growth? I mean, number of clients, that kind of scale and size?
Yeah, so we've got around 125 customers, we've got 35 full-time staff. And we've been growing year on year for around 10 years.
Sounds like a brilliant journey, but what would you put down to the secrets of your success?
Great people, honestly. Having the right people in the right seats. And I guess there's no definition for what great people are, and it's what your company defines as great people. So core values is a big thing that we run our whole business on. We'll
come back to talk about people, because inevitably recruitment is a massive issue. Chris, do you want to tell us about FlexMR and similarly about your journey?
Yep. FlexMR we provide a online research platform. We grew out of, quite similar to Hannah's story actually, we grew out of a research agency called Intersperience, and the first version of our platform, which brings together surveys, focus groups, different research tools into collection analysis and then activation. The first iteration of that was really built for our internal users, our research staff. And now that is a platform that we offer to our clients, supported still by those research services.
And where are you on that journey now? I mean, in terms of again this kind of scale of the business and what you're doing in terms of number of staff?
So we have about 35 full-time staff, similar number again. And we have about 40 to 50 annual clients.
Brilliant. Phil, Relative Insight are the darling of the things like the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund, and I remember driving to Salford and there was this massive banner right across the main road that said how great the North was, and it said Relative Insight, and it was just, where have you come from to get to that kind of stage where your headline is all over the Northwest?
Okay, so basically we offer our customers a text analytics platform, which allows them to get more value from words and language. So originally we were part of a research project between Lancaster University and UK law enforcement to expose online criminal masquerading behaviour. So as part of that research project, we developed a series of comparative linguistic techniques which could identify subtle differences in topics, words, phrases and grammar which people use online. And it's those techniques which we developed which still underpin the platform we have today. However, today we work with research teams, marketers and brand specialists to basically get more value from the language data which we already have. And so we're able to do this by comparing language data at scale to expose insights which you might not think to look for. And so we do this by revealing the differences and similarities in the language which people and brands use online. And so we can use those insights to help our customers improve their outbound communication, help with their brand positioning, or create marketing campaigns which resonate better with their target audience.
What size of a team are you as well? Sorry, obviously, you're probably going to be 35 by the sounds of it. But...
I think at current count we're between 50 and 60 employees. So we're split over 3 sites. We have our headquarters here in Lancaster. We also have an office in London, which is like the commercial side, it's like sales and account management. And we also have a little office in New York, which we're in the process of kind of setting up and getting going there.
And obviously COVID has impacted on that presumably quite heavily, or in terms
of so last year it was our kind of our big plan or big aim for last year to get the New York office set up, but I think it was like 2 weeks after we actually started the lease of our New York office, like the lockdown came in, so those plans had to be delayed.
It's amazing, 3 fantastic growth stories, and continuing. But what's the magic ingredient? I mean, how have you actually grown that business, and how do you intend to grow that in future?
Is that open now?
No, I'll ask you. Sorry, Hannah. Sorry, to you. Sorry.
I guess there's no one magic ingredient. Like I said, people. I think if you don't have the right people to go on that journey with you and believe in your strategy and your vision and where you're going, then it's just not going to work, in my opinion. So I think getting the right people, maintaining the right people, treating them well, growing those people is, for me, the number one ingredient.
And then how about actually winning customers? Is it about winning more customers, or is it about selling more services to your existing customer base?
Both. So we look for 20% new business growth year on year, so it's not huge, I guess, for a Saas business who, well, in some industries have huge growth plans. So we do, upselling, growth, expansion, new customers. It's about getting the right customers that we know we serve really well.
So kind of like a land and expand strategy. You're winning get the customer in and then build
show
a relationship.
Them value, kind of. Make sure we're always developing new modules, new features, new services, and grow that way as well.
Chris, you're the marketing expert here. What's your strategy for marketing and expanding the business, and also how do you manage things like return on investment for that marketing? Because Saas is quite a unique way in terms of how you market those solutions.
It is, yeah, and again, land and expand is a really important strategy. It's not just about growing a customer base fast. It's about growing the value of your customers and growing alongside them. So we have almost a 50-50 split in our teams between new customer acquisition and then retention and growth and upgrades. There is a unique element in Saas in which you are able to expand contracts year on year, add new users to the platform, increase capacity limits. And I think for us, there's this balance between having almost 2 speeds of marketing and growth happening at the same time. There's one eye always on the long term, the strategic 3 to 5 year future vision. And then there's one eye on the sales activation, the short term. How are we going to sell within the next 3 to 6 months? So there's always one more tactical short-term view and one longer-term brand-building view happening in parallel.
And you mentioned about, obviously, in terms of retaining those customers. Do you have a customer loyalty strategy, or how does that retention element work?
We do. And as a marketer, I've worked across a few firms, and one of the mistakes I often see is a sales purchase funnel ending at customer acquired. And I'm sure a lot of people know there's a really important stage after that, which is advocacy. And how do you convert customers into brand advocates? Again, in Saas, that can happen at 2 levels. It happens within your customers. So if you're able to build advocates within one company, then you can grow the amount of users and your user base within that company. And then also externally, we sell into insight teams and marketing teams, and they're usually very well connected, and people move jobs quite often, and that's another really important path to growth for us.
So do you have an active channel strategy or something like that? You're actually thinking about, resellers or...
Not necessarily resellers, but we do invest heavily in a customer success team and have a dedicated channel alongside how we speak to those customers, how we check in with them. It's very much not a case of we sell them the platform and then leave them alone and check in on renewal the next year. There's very much check-ins and extra work that isn't necessarily costed or paid for in terms of ensuring their success.
Brilliant. How does that work with Access Planet? Is it similar story, or are you doing other things to try and attract customers in?
So we have, in terms of bring customers in, we have outbound channels and inbound channels that, with the whole customer piece. Recommendations are kind of the most powerful lead source you can have. So we work hard to give the customers we do have a lot of value. Customer success is something we believe in strongly as well, not just within the customer success team, but throughout the business. It's kind of a mindset.
Are you constantly obviously clients are contacting you and saying, we'd like to try and do this or improve, could you make this change or could we add something else? How do you manage that kind of iterative improvements or change within the platform?
Yeah, so we have a few different channels. So we have our technical support team who deal with kind of the day-to-day queries. We have technical support paid services. So if there's a project that a customer wants to get done that they might not have time for, or they want kind of our expertise on that, and they can pay for the service. We offer training as a service as well, so upskilling them. I think education and educating customers is a really big investment that we've put money and time into. We just hired a full-time trainer, for example, and getting customers comfortable and getting value for themselves out of the platform is really important. And then we have our customer success managers who kind of coordinate the whole customer picture. They will look at kind of health metrics, customer usage, try and get the full picture, and then they have those check-ins with the customer. What are they trying to achieve? What are their goals? How do we work with them to achieve those goals? So,
brilliant.
Kind of similar.
Brilliant. Phil, but from these guys, you get all the kind of demands to improve and add new functionality and features. How do you cope with that strategy? How does the team build around the demands of customers and the demands of growth?
So I guess there's sort of two aspects to that. I guess you've got the kind of the short-term kind of tactical changes, if you will, where it's like the kind of customer requests coming in for like a little kind of tweak or a specific new feature they would see value, and getting that balance right in terms of like the long-term kind of innovation, which you have kind of as a vision for the company, in terms of it might be to kind of build up your IP profile or to kind of make more kind of fundamental changes to your platform. And I guess one of the challenges which we have is kind of getting that balance right. And I guess a lot of it comes down to, having the right team, which I guess has already been mentioned, kind of having that enough capacity within the team to be able to kind of cope with that kind of parallel kind of development strands, if you will. But also coming down to kind of good planning as well. So actually understanding what all of the kind of different requirements are, and having, I guess, like an open discussion with everybody, with all the stakeholders, and working out what those priorities are. And so you can kind of plan things and then coordinate things. But I guess one part of this as well is kind of expectation setting as well, of kind of explaining to people and the stakeholders involved that, we're having to make this decision because of this reason. And just having that kind of open discussion and kind of making people aware of the decisions you're making, and having that kind of transparency as well.
How do you collaborate then as a team? So is there like a senior management team that looks at these issues and plans out your future functionality or your responsive work and so on? Yeah,
so basically we have like these kind of feature requests kind of coming in from, so it's like what's already been mentioned. We have like a team of account managers who are kind of day-to-day kind of hands-on with the customers. So we have kind of feature requests coming from them. We have our own kind of internal customer success team who are using the platform themselves. So again, we get requests coming in from them as well, and that's all kind of really kind of useful feedback. And we also have, like the ideas from, our own kind of developers and our own data scientists, the kind of improvements and things which they can see would add value to the platform. And so they kind of all get raised up and they come together so we have like weekly product calls where we kind of review all the different requests which have come in over the past week, and we talk about them and then prioritize them and plan around that in terms of what actually goes onto our development roadmap.
And it's really interesting, obviously, what we're talking about here is building your own platform, and obviously all three companies have their own IP and their own platform. But another element of that is the support systems that you then have to bring in around that. How do you manage that side of things? Obviously, that's things like billing and onboarding, customer, external platforms that you need to integrate with.
So at the moment, it's a lot of kind of manual effort for us. It's like the account managers are very much kind of very hands-on with the customers, helping with the platform, and it's like kind of goes with the same with the billing as well. It's like we don't have like any kind of integrated kind of credit card payment system. It's all kind of invoice based and kind of manually done that way. But we've put together a series of initiatives to kind of help with that training. So we have a kind of a regular session called Comparison University, where it's run by our audience marketer David, and it's these regular sessions where new users to the platform can come along, subscribe to these kind of courses, which is run over 3 weeks, and they go through like a training session of how to get the most out of the platform. And at the end of it, they get like a little certificate saying they're kind of being certified to use a Relative Insight platform. And it kind of links back to what Chris said before, how you have different people kind of move on to the job. So we hope we can kind of train people up to use Relative Insight and they can move on to a different job, and we kind of get that cross-fertilization that way as well to grow the business.
Brilliant. And Chris, in terms of obviously for things like marketing, I mean, you must use a lot of external systems as well. How do they kind of integrate into the business? How do you, are they an essential part of the platform in terms of, that you bring on board?
We are starting to integrate our own IP, our own platform into our external systems more. It's kind of been over the last 2 or 3 years. It's a more recent addition. I think kind of in the early stages of growth, what was really important to us was to just build our technology stack in the right way and make sure we just had the right resources in place. Kind of right at the core of it for us is our CRM system. It's what we call our single source of truth. So every piece of data about a customer and account gets fed into that one system, so we can look in and see what feature requests did they make, what was the outcome of that, have they come across any bugs, have they moved jobs, where have they moved to, and just having that really rounded view of individuals and accounts. And now what we're starting to be able to do is link that single source of truth to our platform, to our product, and build in things like capacity limits or monitoring. At the moment, it is a lot of manual effort, and there is a lot of duplication of data across those two systems. So when we get a new platform user, adding it into that single source of truth. And now where we're seeing a lot of efficiency and a lot of saving is by integrating those two things together. But there's no point integrating if you don't have that single source of truth, that kind of right tech stack in place first, I don't think.
We talked about a lot of good things here, like success metrics and how you've improved the business, but what have you experienced as the biggest challenges, and what's your biggest ongoing challenges?
One of the biggest challenges, I think, is narrowing who your core market is and who you work really well with, and getting the whole business to understand that, because I think it's very easy to cast the net very wide, but you've got limited resource, and you need to focus it in the right places. That doesn't mean we don't service people who wouldn't class as our core target market, but that's where we put our most efforts and energy into throughout the business, and I think that's something that a lot of businesses who I speak with that casting the net too wide can be a big challenge.
Oh, the temptation is there, as my finance director knows all too well.
Yeah.
But the temptation is there to go for as big a market as humanly possible. So how do you constrain that interest? Because I mean, a lot of people in your team are probably going, we should go for this, we should try this market, we should expand into this. How do you manage to hold back that? Because there's obviously a lot of enthusiasm and passion there. But...
Again, right people motivated by the right things that meet our core values. So salespeople, as you'd expect, would be one challenge. So you have to just communicate really well. This is who we work the best with. This is where we want to focus our energy. But if things come in inbound that we can serve, we won't necessarily turn them away. But we do have that core target market that comes first, and who we kind of build around.
And do you face similar challenges, or is there bigger challenges? Because I mean, you just explain you're not based in Lancaster, where you're in the area, but you're just on the fringes in more rural areas. So you must face some challenges associated with being in there.
Yeah. So just to come in on that first point quickly, I completely get that and agree with it. And I think we see it in terms of orientations. Salespeople think sell it. I don't want to generalize, but there is a sales orientation that says we should sell to everybody. There's people who work with the product, put the product first and say we should base decisions around the product. And then people like me, the marketers, say we should base decisions around the customers. And they're all always competing. And finding that balance is really tricky. But yeah, we also face more practical challenges. And I think there's kind of a local challenge in the area of Lancaster. And for us, there was a challenge of finding the right space as we grew. But also, we compete on a global scale. So our customers aren't just looking at us, they're comparing us against companies in London, companies in New York, and so we have to compete on that global scale. And while everyone loves coming to our office in Cumbria and seeing the view over the bay, there's a real staff challenge there because we have to attract the right talent, and we've had to kind of go outside of our comfort zone and both find the right talent locally, but also where we need to expand that and be more open to be able to compete on that global level, recruiting on a more global level as well.
And you've got a team of 60, so you must have a lot of technical stuff in there. How hard have you found it to actually find the right skills and the right people locally?
So I think in the past 6 months or so, it's become a lot harder. So it may be because of like the COVID situation and people kind of maybe less willing to try and change jobs and look for new opportunities. But I think as we grow, I think one of our biggest challenges is going to be kind of recruitment, because I think we're getting to the point where we're going to have to start looking for more specialist roles. Because I guess as our customer kind of base evolves, they're going to want kind of more specific kind of requirements. We're going to have to work on kind of bigger scale kind of data sets and so on, and it's going to require more specialists. And I guess it's going to be kind of a more limited kind of pool of people to look for. So I think that's going to be one of our biggest challenges, kind of finding those specialist roles. So it might just have to start looking kind of beyond just kind of Lancaster and starting to attract people here. What
strategies have you kind of adopted to get the people you have, and where have you sought to go?
So one of the biggest, methods we've used so far is actually working closely with the universities, because they do provide like a massive pool of talented people who are smart and are motivated. So we do work with like the MSc courses there. So if we have the Data Science Institute, and we host like student projects and work experience for students at Lancaster University. And so we found that as a really positive way of finding new people who are kind of smart, intelligent, and motivated. But I mean, other methods are kind of using kind of recruiters locally who kind of know, who have kind of connections in the area, and using them to kind of find the people who we need.
Thanks. And Chris, it's similar, because obviously again location. How have you tried to tackle the challenges of finding the right kind of skilled staff?
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, that is a challenge we really face in terms of our platform is built on a relatively niche technology, and there just aren't many people in the area, or even in the country, to be honest, who happen to know this one particular language. And there is a large travel booking site, I won't name it, but there is a large travel booking site built on the same. But I think being aware of what niche skills you need, and also being aware of where the demand for those niche skills is, allows you to be a bit more targeted in where you're looking, how you're approaching, what you're doing to attract the right people. And then also I think that there is an advantage in being on a growth journey. A lot of our more niche staff come from larger companies where they felt like they were treated as just a very small cog in a machine. But being on that kind of journey of growth, you're able to provide opportunities that weren't there, more autonomy, greater freedom, and a chance to make a bigger impact. And I think it's important not to undervalue that as a tool as well.
And the technology you're using, I think you mentioned the website, which is it Ruby?
It is Ruby, yeah.
Ruby. So if any Ruby on the Rails developers out there, give Chris a call. Lancaster, in terms of being a place to work, obviously, sounds like obviously we've all got similar challenges in recruitment, but I think that's nationwide. What's been the biggest things about Lancaster, which I think probably has helped the growth of Access Planet? It's a good place to be based, fundamentally, I think.
Yeah, it's great transport-wise as well, for customer visits, things like that. 2 hours away, 2.5 hours away from London, go up to Scotland. So it's good location-wise, we find.
And for obviously quality of life and all those kind of things, I presume, as well.
Yeah, and the university, you've got a good pool of talent.
And what obviously the Lancaster University has proved really important for everybody. I think obviously Relative Insight began their journey up at Lancaster University. So what role does the university play in an Access Planet?
I think we've had a lot of Lancaster graduates. People tend to go to Lancaster University and stay here. People like it. So we get a good pool of talent there. And I recently did my MBA there as well. So.
Do you engage with them on any projects or anything like that?
No, but they do an MBA kind of consultancy project. So I'm going to look to engage with that.
And similarly, is that the university been a benefit to you? Do you engage with the university on a regular basis? Or?
Yeah, most of our research staff, our service staff members, are Lancaster graduates. And I really echo that point about, people come to Lancaster and stay, or, don't want to leave because it is a better quality of life. And it's great. And what it means is we've got a kind of a small window of opportunity to encourage people and provide them a reason to stay here before they move away to London or to Manchester.
And when you're going through that process, you mentioned before about how you differentiate yourself in these large companies where they're a small cog. What's the kind of is there any kind of emotive factors that you put over? And obviously you mentioned that view over the river, like Billy said, that can only last so long. What's the difference that you put across in terms of the sense of the business?
I think it is people and culture, and autonomy is a big factor. You can either be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond. And emotively, we say to all of our new starters, if you come to us, you'll be, a big fish in a small pond. You can have a real impact. You can work with RB, with Unilever, with our really large scale clients and make a difference to their business. Not just be part of a very large team that's making a difference, but you personally will be making a difference to their business.
Brilliant. And Relative Insight, obviously, you've got quite a sophisticated model in terms of what you're offering to the clients, and you've got some phenomenal names like Sky and so on and so forth. But how do you find it in terms of getting them to understand as a customer why they need Relative Insight? Because you're selling them something that's very new and cutting edge.
Yeah, I mean it's a challenge we face because, as you say, it's kind of quite kind of a novel technique of what we apply. So I think a lot of it is kind of is understanding what the goals and motivations of the customer are, of kind of not just necessarily kind of listening to what they say, but kind of digging a lot deeper and understanding, what it is they're trying to achieve, and then starting to kind of marry up between what we offer and what their kind of goals are. And as I say, it's there's a lot of kind of education we have to kind of do with the customers to kind of get to allow them to get the most out of the platform. So it's like a lot of account management, a lot of kind of training and so on.
Yeah, it's brilliant generally how you grow, and long may it continue. They're upstairs, by the way, in this building, which shows how Lancaster's really been a place for companies like this to grow and expand. I've written down a couple of notes here, which basically said about thinking about what we've said, but identifying the market that we all operate in and how we refine and do that, achieving fast enough growth. Obviously, you've got to get that kind of scale and establish a viable business model. So what you're constantly doing is adapting and changing that model. Keeping customer turnover low, which you've explained really well, but also things like the support systems and all the other things that come with it, and lastly probably the big headache of recruitment. The principle of what we were to talk about was how we develop a successful SaaS platform. So as a kind of closing remarks, what do you think are the magic ingredients that anybody looking out there who says I'm going to build a SaaS platform should be thinking about?
I think you can guess what I'm going to say. Great people.
Yeah.
But I think that's universal. I don't think that's unique to a SaaS business. I think you need to know as the leadership team what you're looking for in those people and go out and get there and not settle for anything less.
Chris?
I'd say don't be distracted by the fact that a business is a SaaS business. It sounds counterintuitive, and there are some things that are quite unique, like how at a tactical level how you grow, but building a SaaS business is the same way you build any great business. It's getting the right people in the right places, understanding your market, and just having a really great strategy and then really great tactical execution.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, I think for me it's one of the critical parts of this kind of understanding that you go through different phases of growth. So what success looks like at your early stage is kind of a lot different to what success may look like for us now. And I guess it's just kind of recognizing that can change, and I guess being adaptable and kind of responding to what success actually looks like, and kind of just being aware of that and then putting everything in place to help you kind of move forward through those different phases.
Brilliant, thank you very much indeed. I think we've seen what Lancaster really looks like right here, with brilliant businesses at the cutting edge doing fantastic work, evolving and growing and doing exciting things, but thinking about the wider market and thinking about those strategic issues around their customers and supporting the development of their own staff. So I'd just like big thank you to all of you for your comments. Again, I'd just like to thank our sponsors, like City Council and ICS Accounting. If you click, there's a little rooms button here, and you can jump in there and you can go and meet ICS Accounting and their teams and talk to them about any weird and wonderful accounting issues and questions you may have. And again, just a big thank you, and come and visit. Come if you're out from outside the Lancaster area, come visit Fraser House, see these fantastic businesses and come and meet us all. But thank you again.